No ice, no water, no field goals in overtime, and no win. This week has us all tied up in knots as we prepare to go on the road for the first time this season next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Hey, Packers fans. This is your unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, and these are the podcasters you're looking for. One of these guys actually kissed the magical 13.5-yard line, and the other guy will challenge you to a game of pinball anytime. And now, it's time to Go Pack Go with your hosts, Wayne Henderson and Troy Heinritz.
Brilliant of you to join us for another Packers Fan Podcast, the show by and for fans of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. I'm at Wayne Henderson, and this is the 161st edition, recorded September 18th, 2018.
And I'm at Troy Heinritz on Twitter, who actually went to the game with a pair of Viking fans and came out afterwards still friends. Maybe we can do some tie-dye later. We're talking about today on how a surefire victory turns into a tie, as well as news and injury updates coming out of the heat in Lambeau Field. And we talk about, of course, the controversial Clay Matthews tackle of Kirk Cousins.
And we're going to preview the Packers at Redskins game, have the latest NFC North roundup, and, as always, your great feedback coming in from 920-3PACK-GO and from email.
Links or articles we reference on this episode can be found on our website. That's PackersFanPodcast.com/161. And if my voice sounds weird, it's because I was at the game.
That'll do it to you, especially after some of the highlights that happened. Of course, even the lowlights can cause you to lose your voice a bit. But early on, that blocked punt for a touchdown was insane.
I have no idea how Geronimo got in there to get his hand on that ball, but when all of a sudden you're just like, oh, he's kicking it, and then the ball just floats straight up in the air, and you're like, someone jump, please, someone jump.
And with the refs being flag happy, I was just waiting for some sort of roughing the kicker, but every time they show the play, that's about as clean of a blocked punt as you can get.
Well, as bad as the referees were on that game on Sunday, I was waiting for an over-the-back call because they thought they were watching basketball.
Oh, that could be the problem. But that was a nice, quick way to get 7 points.
I know. That is the way that we needed something special to happen in order to sort of win this game. Because if we had a special teams conversion or a pick six, I knew that was going to be the dagger we needed in order to make something happen against our division rivals in the Vikings. Sadly, though, it wasn't enough.
And it's so frustrating. Because it was the purple ones, the purple freaks. We needed our revenge. Now we're just going to have to get it at the end of the season.
Yeah, we could have tied against the Raiders or something.
Yeah.
What the heck?
As long as we don't tie against the Bills.
Oh, gosh. The Bills. And they're coming up pretty quickly here. But I did like the fact that our defensive backs are showing some prowess, some not pick sixes, but some interceptions that were truly the key moments of the game. I know I put in the Packers community, and I'm sorry I called out the dagger early. My bad. It's all my fault. I'm so sorry. But that was a dagger killing moment right there. The fact that we got the ball back and we put up another 3 points, and still don't know why we passed to Devontae in the end zone and why it wasn't a catch, but that's totally fine by me because he made a football move. Anyways, the other interception that happened, unfortunately, that was tied to Clay's unfortunate call. Both of those were just fantastic plays by the defense. And even though the defense did give up 22 points in the fourth quarter and they did give up 400 passing yards, when they needed to make the plays count, they made them count, which is good.
Oh, absolutely. That was super encouraging to see. And if they can keep that up, because these first 2 games of the season, they really are 2 of the hardest games we're going to have all year. Obviously, the Rams could be the toughest game of the year, but it's going to get better. And then we get the bye week. Then we play the Rams, and then we head toward the playoffs.
Exactly. You know what else is really great, Wayne?
Tell me, Troy, tell me.
Bacon-covered pretzel cheese bread.
No, wait a minute. Did you say bacon-covered pretzel cheese bread? Because I love pretzels, and pretzel cheese bread is awesome by itself, but covered in bacon? How do you eat it?
you just literally kind of slide it forward as it's literally sitting inside of like a hot dog container. And at first when I saw it, I thought it was actually the bacon wrapped hot dog that we mentioned a few episodes ago.
Right.
But this was the bacon wrapped pretzel with cheese inside the pretzel bread. So literally it was like you just slide it like a hot dog and then you ate it like a hot dog. And then the cheese would you pull the thing away and the cheese would just kind of hang there. And oh my God, it was so good. So yummy.
It sounds fantastic. It's definitely not something that you want to have be part of your regular diet, but for Packers game day experiences, what the heck?
And it is certainly big enough that you can share it with a couple of people because it's huge and a lot of bacon and a lot of cheese.
The staples of Wisconsin. I love it.
We never did find, though, the cheddar cheese curd brat. Was not able to find it because there was a lot of weirdness going on with concessions for even the second game of the season. Just a lot of slowness. I went and got an actual just regular brat. They were out. I had to wait 10 minutes for a brat. I'm like, this is Wisconsin, people. What the hell's going on around here?
Yeah, you would think by the second regular season game, because they've also had the preseason game and family night, that concessions would be up to speed. But sorry about that, Troy. We'll have to get that blanket experience later in the season when you hopefully go to the next game. What is that, the second to the last home game?
No, I don't. I will not be going to Game 5 this year. My grandfather will be still having that game. So my next Packer game will be with you against the Los Angeles Rams.
Oh, man, that's going to be a heck of a game. That's going to be wild.
I wish it was in the new stadium, though. Damn it.
I know. It was, originally they, of course, overpromised. Oh, yeah, we'll have the stadium built in 2 years. Then it turned into 3 years. Now they're going to play a whole nother year. One of these days, they'll have that shiny new stadium. And in the meantime.
At least after the game, we can go look at the space shuttle next door.
True. And you can at least go to the Coliseum and see a game there and see where the Packers won the very first Super Bowl.
This is true, too.
So we got that.
Check. Bucket list item off the list. Well, let's just get into it, okay? The Clay Matthews call.
Oh, my
The officiating in general. Oh, my gosh. This is probably some of the worst officiating. I think this is even better than Fail Mary. It was just god-awful. I hate to use that term, but it was so bad on Sunday. I've never seen the Lambeau faithful just beside themselves as much as I did on Sunday.
Yeah, in the Fail Mary, that was one really bad call. But this game, there were flags all over the place for things that even at the sports bar where I was watching the game, even though I couldn't hear the announcers, which may have been a good thing, who knows. But I'm like, they'd show the replays and I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah, especially those illegal motion calls that Randall Cobb was picking up a few times. I'm just watching it. I don't see it. I don't understand it unless he's like a centimeter off where he's supposed to be lining up or something. They must have like an infinite. I swear the guy had like a magnifying glass or something for glasses, because that must be the only way he could tell like the fraction of an inch that he was off the line when he lined up.
This would be a perfect case if Hank Davis was still doing his NFL podcast for That's Not Football. Yeah, magnifying glasses, sheets of paper to see if it's bonkers, just absolute bonkers. And then there was a holding play, or they called it as holding, because one of the linemen ended up on the ground. And even Mark Tauscher, former Packers great, tweeted out, just because somebody ends up on the ground does not necessarily mean there was holding.
Oh, and there was numerous times where no one called a single pass interference call. I mean, we've gone over the pass interference rule on this very podcast.
We have.
And you have to be looking back to the ball. And if you're not looking back to the ball and you touch the guy, it's pass interference. That's the rule. It says it in the rule book.
You know what I think the thing is? It's kind of like back in the day when we might have been on Windows computers and you'd buy, say, Norton Antivirus or some other antivirus program, and it gives you these false positives all the time, just so that it's making it seem like it's doing more than it's doing, just like doing busy work. I think the refs are just throwing a whole bunch of flags just so we know that they're there, just so we know they are doing their job.
I'll take it even a step further with that analogy. It's like that time when you install Norton antivirus on your computer and you can't use your computer anymore because it just bogs the computer down constantly. That's what it was like watching football on Sunday. The refs just bogging down the game. No football was actually being played. I think the last, maybe 12 minutes or so, including the overtime, took an hour and a half.
Oh, I totally agree. I know that overtime does, obviously make a game longer, but I swear when I left the sports bar, I was like, where did the last 4 hours go?
So apparently the issue with Clay Matthews is this idea of scooping, I think is what we're calling it. It's the part of the technique of grabbing the passer from behind the leg or legs and scooping and pulling in upward motion. And if you look at the replay from the wonderful NFL Game Pass, Clay does indeed grab the right leg of Cousins, and he does lift the right leg up off the ground. To me, I don't know how that's scooping. That's called tackling.
That is called tackling. I had a visual in my head.
I mean, what is he supposed to do? Is he supposed to literally fly at him literally in the air like Superman, wrap him around the waist and hit him so hard that you knock the wind out of him, and then as you're coming down to the ground, literally land on top of him with all of your body weight, which I thought was the issue we're trying to solve for in the first place. To me, scooping the leg is actually better because then you're saying, hey, I'm going to let you down easily. It's like dipping your dance partner in a way. You're just kind of holding their back there. So you're just holding their knees so they don't land on their knee. You're doing them a favor by scooping the leg. This has been like a normal tackling procedure forever. I just don't get it.
And quite clearly in that Clay Matthews tackle this week, the big uproar, you can tell that he is trying to brace the fall so that he's not just smashing the quarterback.
Yeah, he's totally like, I am a table, right? 4 hands, 2 hands, two knees. Literally a table, bridging over the top of Cousins. He is not laying on top of him. And the minute they go to the ground, Clay's already putting his hands out to push himself off of Cousins so the weight's not there. And the thing that is super frustrating about this is the exact same hit. I mean, like the exact same hit happened to Tom Brady in the Jaguars game. Literally the same, off to the side with the helmet, scoop the leg down to the ground, rolls off of Tom Brady so he's not laying on top of him, and that one wasn't called. The consistency is ridiculous. It's been a problem for 3 years. Everybody needs to be on the same page. They need to go back to playing regular football and stop all of this bull malarkey that they've introduced to make people safer. It's football. It's not safe. If you want to be safer, play 2-hand touch.
And that's not football.
It would be better football than what we have now, because right now we don't have football at all.
Well, that's a good point, but it's not the end goal of what we want to see. But like you said, the consistency is the absolute worst. And then to find out the next day that the NFL is going to use this play of Clay Matthews as an example. To teach people
how to do it. Ridiculous. Like Mike Pereira, a whole bunch of other people that used to be officials, all said it was a clean tackle. Brett Favre said it was a clean tackle. The world said it was a clean tackle. The only person that doesn't say it's a clean tackle are the stupid people in New York that work for the NFL that come up with these cockamamie rules every freaking year. I mean, I'm sorry. The competition committee is pretty normal in how this all things go down. I understand the kickoff rules for this year. I think the kickoff rules are stupid, especially that one where he catches the ball in the end zone, and because he caught the ball but didn't take the knee, technically it's a live ball. So if he wouldn't have caught the ball and just let the ball bounce, it would have been a dead ball in the end zone. There's too much for people to think about. Football was just football. Now I got to be like, carry the 1 to the 10th power and the logarithmic exponential scale. It's ridiculous.
Oh, not that scale. I hate that scale. And if Kirk Cousins would be honest, even he will admit that that was a clean hit.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And there's my Minnesotan coming out of me because I was in Minnesota for 6 years. I'm telling you right now.
Oh, yeah, hey.
That was a clean hit for sure. I beside myself. Like here we have, 26-21 or whatever it was. And then we get the interception. So we go up 29-21 and then we get another. I mean, it's so deflating as a Packers fan. And then you get into the overtime and you're just like, I know the RPO option is something that's out there. That's run pass option for those that don't know what RPO is. So the RPO is what happened when Aaron handed the ball off and then pulled it back for that 3-yard scramble that he was going to get the first, and he was going to get the first down if he held on to the ball. So it was super frustrating, and then get sacked. So we went out of field goal range. But I mean, how bad do you have to be as a kicker in Minnesota to miss 3 field goals in the same game?
When the weather is just about perfect, the field looks just about perfect. Wow. I feel bad for that kid because he was a rookie, right?
Well, rookie or not, it doesn't matter. You're still a professional. You're paid to do the job.
He got to play 2 games. Somebody's going to pick him up.
He got to kick a potential go-ahead field goal, and then he was able to potentially kick the winning field goal, and he missed both of them. And what was funny was that you watched the second kick, the one with 4 seconds left in overtime. You watch the kick actually leave his foot, and it looks like a punt. The ball is like, it went straight up in the air. Like, I'm like, damn, that's a lot of hang time for like a 25-yard field goal. I thought this was like a chip shot. Boop, it's in. It just hung in the air, and I'm looking at it going, there's no way he makes this.
This was a bad weekend for kickers. I mean, the Browns.
It was a great weekend for Crosby. Stupid icing the kicker timeout, blah, blah, blah.
Let's get to that just real quick.
Let's be clear, though. On the first kick from 53 or whatever it was, to end the game potentially, he barely made that one. I mean, barely made that one. So you would think that when he barely made that one because it was hanging to the left, that he would have shifted a little bit and said, hey, let's just maybe aim for the other goalpost on the right-hand side. And then sure enough, you put it in the same place and it just hung left. You just scratch your head and go, come on, Crosby, why didn't you point it the other way? You made like 5 other field goals that day.
Icing the kickers is stupid. And I'm not just saying that because we didn't win the game. Of course, we didn't lose the game. The rule needs to be changed. It's absolutely stupid, no matter how anybody's doing it. Because if you're going to call a timeout before a kick, I think it should be required that the timeout be called at least 15 seconds before the attempted kick, not like a tenth of a millisecond before the foot reaches the ball or some ridiculous thing. Icing the kickers is lame.
Yeah, because everybody's like, timeout, 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 timeout. And the ref is like, oh, I got to run in quick. Timeout, 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 timeout. No, there has to be a designated person, and they have to be a designated person on the field. So whether that's the nose tackle, whether that's the middle linebacker, whether that's the guy that's running up for the block, there has to be one person and one person only that can call timeout on icing the kicker, and it's got to come from the field, not from the sidelines.
Yeah, the whole thing's just ridiculous.
And it takes up more time, too. It was hot, man. I'm telling you, there was no water left at the concession stand. No water to drink anywhere. Kelly, our beer man that comes up in good old section 122 there for the Milwaukee games, Kelly's coming up the stairs, and I can see him, right? He's down there about row 30, I think, is where the tunnel comes out from the lower concourse. And he's at row 30. By the time he got up to row 45, where I was, no ice left in the man's bucket. No ice. It was hot. Super hot. I can only imagine what the people on the field were feeling. The cramps and fatigue, and that's why 22 points were given up in the fourth quarter. These guys were just done. They're gassed. Yeah, and I don't blame them.
This beginning of the season, like they had all the different TVs on at the Italian restaurant sports bar we were at, and at the Jaguars-Patriots game, I think they said it was 97 degrees and so humid that the real temperature, the feels like, was like 107. That's not what you want to be playing football in.
Listen, I sat out there on Sunday. I'll tell you right now, I will buy another $200 stock certificate if they install general fan seating misters for these September games. Because with the metal bleachers, oh my goodness, it's so hot. I feel bad for the guys that are on the visitor sidelines on the other side of the stadium, because those guys are looking into the sun. I mean, they literally have to look like giant tomatoes today from the sunburn that they got. I mean, I got a little bit of sunburn on the back of my neck, but it wasn't too bad. I was wearing my 100th seasons Packers hat, which was awesome, keeping me cool throughout the course of the game. But even that didn't help. It was hot, man. It was hot.
The question becomes, was the tundra frozen?
The tundra was frozen in the fact that it froze the kickers.
And then as far as kind of a bad thing that the defense, our defense, why'd we change our methods? Near the end of the game, we stopped rushing the quarterback.
Because we were tired because it was hot. It was hot.
So those two kind of go hand in hand. Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to give it full, like, disgruntled, like, holy crap, 400 yards again, guys. What bleep were you doing?
It was hot.
But it was hot. And 400 yards, yeah, we got to look into that. We got to see what's going on there and why that was able to happen. And we have to correct that before we go any further into the season. Because if we're giving up 400 yards again in the secondary, then Mike Pettin's group isn't doing any better than Dom Capers' group, because that's literally the Atlanta Falcons numbers that kept us out of the Super Bowl the last couple of years. So, yeah, we have to figure out that, and we still have to figure out the run game, and we still got to figure out the damn middle of the field. Who covers the middle of the field? Every tight end in the world should be having, if you're playing fantasy football and there is a tight end playing against the Packers, play that guy because he is getting the ball. I said before the game started to my friends who were playing, that were Viking fans that were with me, and I said, I tell you right now, they involve Kyle Rudolph in the game plan, they will win. And the first 5 passes were to Kyle Rudolph.
It's going to be okay. That was next to the Rams game. I think that was the second toughest game that we're going to face.
We're going to be undefeated. That's all that matters. Undefeated season.
Oh, yeah. Can I get a go, Pack, go?
Go, Pack, go indeed.
And who knows, by the time the Bills get to Lambeau Field, if more of their players decide to retire at halftime, I don't know if they're going to even have a squad.
That was amazing. I'm done. See ya.
It's like, that's just not right.
We've all seen those movies where the water boy shows up at halftime, or Rudy shows up at halftime. Somebody shows up Lucas shows up at halftime, or whatever. Here the guy leaves at halftime. Whoever saw that movie coming?
Nobody, because I don't think it's ever happened.
Well, the good thing is that we came out of this game, even despite the heat, even despite the tie, even despite stupid officiating that literally could kill somebody out there. We came out pretty clean on the injury side because the only people showing up on the report post game on Sunday is Kevin King, who hurt his groin. And Ouch. Believe me, I hurt mine too, climbing up those stairs at Lambeau. But yeah, I mean, everything looks pretty normal. I mean, Oren Burks is still on there, and then Josh Jones is still on there. But Rodgers, he'll be a little sore, but most likely he'll keep going the rest of the season. And we get Aaron Jones back this week. So look out.
Yes.
Rushing attack is on. It was great to see Ty Montgomery. Ty Montgomery was actually rushing the ball pretty well, too.
Yeah, he was.
Against the Vikes.
So you don't think Aaron Rodgers messed up his knee any further by playing with the brace?
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
Tweaked it. You're going to have to rehab it a little bit. It'll get better every single week.
Okay. That because I was nervous on some of those hits. I was a little nervous. I admit it.
I was more nervous on that one where he runs and then dives head first. I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to get a concussion.
Perish the thought, Troy. Don't even say it.
Fun game, though. I mean, it was definitely an interesting one at Lambeau. I mean, I think the last time I experienced a decibel level that was as loud as the interception in the fourth quarter when we were 26-21 that I called the dagger, it was literally deafening inside of Lambeau Field. The last time I heard something that loud was the Antonio Freeman catch off the back from Brett Favre against the Vikings. When he just rolls over and it just, oh my gosh, he didn't drop the ball. Run, touchdown. The place goes nuts.
And it was raining at that game, right?
It was raining at that game. So yeah, very loud at that time. This was super loud. Literally couldn't hear anything other than, because it was just deafening. It was one volume of just noise. It was amazing experience. But the best part, I don't even know how to explain the feeling when it's 4 seconds to go in overtime. He kicks this ball and you're going man, that looks ugly. And then you hear the end zone go, still good. You can see the whole end zone waving it off. No good. And everybody just starts collectively chortling, laughing in the stands. It wasn't silence. It wasn't disbelief. It was literally oh my gosh, did that just happen?
Yeah.
We must have just sat there and looked at each other oh my gosh, like that just happened. We tied the game. Like crazy.
Who's going to tie this coming week? We'll have to watch and find out.
It's a trend, I think, in the NFL.
Everything else is.
Oh my goodness.
Save me.
Well, enough of us. 25 minutes of just jibber jabbering about what we thought of the game. Why don't we get in to see what you guys all thought with your G-Force feedback, calling us at 920-3PACK-GO and at PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback. Who we got first, Mr. Wayne?
We're going to check in with the great state of Texas.
Well, I got to say it was a good game, but with that roughing passer, Clay Matthews, I don't agree with it. And the Packers are still undefeated, so can't beat that. On to the Redskins. Go Pack Go from San Antonio, Texas.
Awesome to hear from San Antonio. And yes, we're going to ride that undefeated as long as we can because, we didn't lose. And if it weren't for the refs, we definitely would have won. And so good to hear from you. We got to think positive as we go Pack Go going forward, Troy.
Yes, we do. And I feel bad for the Browns. I was hoping we were going to compete for the undefeated season this year.
The poor Browns. That's another kicking thing. I thought, they're going to win one. No. Well, maybe next week. Let's see who else we got at 920-3PACK-GO.
Hey guys, this is Andre in LA. As always, go Pack Go. Wow, what a game. Man, only the second week of the season, it feels like my nerves are already shot. I wanted to talk about the defense again. I'm a big fan of defense. And even though they gave up 29 points, it felt like they played a really good game. I mean, they gave up a couple of big plays towards the end. Maybe that was because they were on the field too long. But it feels like the defense is getting better. I don't know if you guys see the same thing. But even though we tied, it felt like we had like 4 or 5 times in the last couple minutes of the game we should have won. I just want to hear your thoughts on the game. It felt like a good team draw. I thought it was going to be a good team victory. As always, green and gold till I'm dead in gold, and go Pack Go. Love the podcast. Andre and Ellen.
Andre. Yeah, man, it was amazing to watch the defense work. A lot of times when we needed the stop was there. So for 3 quarters, I think they played an excellent defensive contest. I mean, they held them to 7 points. Who would have thought that was possible? A defense that can hold somebody under 10 points in a Packers uniform. I was like, bravo, super, this is awesome. And then of course you just get tired. The heat was just unbearable. So yeah, to give up those big plays in the fourth quarter, we got to fix that. We got to correct that. And if we can do that, I mean, kudos to Kirk Cousins. I mean, the one pass that he got there on the corner for the to make the well, not the tie, but close to the tie because they have to still do the 2-point conversion. But that ball was threaded in a spot that literally only the Minnesota receiver could catch it. And that was a really nice throw. So kudos to Cousins on that one. I have to hand it to him. That was a really, really nice placed ball. But most of the time we were there, hands on the ball or hands really close to the ball. So I think we are at a point where the defense, I think, has turned around as long as we can get a little bit more on the pass rush effectiveness. And that'll obviously help with Oren Burks coming back eventually, hopefully. And then, of course, we need to make sure the run game is sealed up because Adrian Peterson. Guy.
No worries. Andre, thank you so much for your call. And I totally agree. Very encouraged by what we've seen so far with our defense. And that's probably going to be one of the hottest temperature games we play this year as well. So things are just going to get better.
Wayne, Troy, Art from Texas. Great to have you guys back for another green and gold season. Well, my thoughts on this week's game, I'm really disappointed on that lousy call on Clay Matthews that was not roughing the passer. My goodness. I understand they're trying to protect the quarterbacks, but geez, really? I'm really, really proud of the way Ty Montgomery played, Jair Alexander, Clay Matthews, and Geronimo Allison. They had great games. Too bad, they couldn't pull it off at the end. But had it not been for that lousy call, it would have been a pick six by Alexander, and it would have been a win. Just wondering what you guys thought about. You guys thought maybe the Pack offense got a little too conservative towards the end there? Thanks a lot, guys. Good to be back. Green and gold till I'm dead and cold. Ow!
Oh, yeah. Art, thank you so much for calling in from Texas. And yes, Geronimo, it was great to see him. And Ty Montgomery was doing a very solid job out there. Troy, did you think our offense got a little too conservative there at the end, like Art said?
I don't think we were conservative enough, to be quite honest. I was trying to feel, why are we passing the ball? Why aren't we running the clock out more? We were up by the score at that point, and yeah, we could have gotten another touchdown. And I'm glad to see that McCarthy was not resting on his previous stances of just run the clock out, run the ball out, and that we were actually trying to go for a W, which is good because that got us to the 29 mark that we absolutely needed. At the same time, we left way too much time on the clock. One thing we didn't talk about as far as like things that kind of stunk from this game was the timeout management, the time management, like all of it was just off. The 3 timeouts that were taken in the first half, and then you have Aaron trying to drive down at the end of the first half when we're not getting the ball to start the second half. So scoring points at that moment is a huge, huge thing. And Aaron's running around looking like a chicken with his head cut off. Timeout, 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 timeout. And you're like, dude, man, you don't got one.
They all gone.
He's lucky he didn't get a penalty for it. I don't know what the rule is. I think that's what they were barking about on the Minnesota sideline, was that they should have thrown a flag for a penalty for trying to call a timeout when you didn't have any. And then, they burned all 3 timeouts in the second half there, so they weren't able to challenge the Devontae Adams play because they're out of timeouts, so they're out of challenges. And then they also couldn't call timeout with the 30 seconds that they had to try to work the field and get a little bit further down there for Crosby. Instead of kicking a 53-yarder, maybe he kicks a 40-yarder instead if you have a timeout to spare. So, yeah, just real bad clock and game management. There was actually 2 coaches from the Packers literally almost fisticuffs on the sideline with each other at one point during the game. Other coaches had to pull these 2 apart.
Really?
And even after they pulled them apart, they're like running back at each other again. And this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And we're winning. So I don't understand what the heck's going on. It must be the heat. They just couldn't get their cheese cheddar curd brat.
Oh, yum, yum. Yeah. Out of all the timeouts, a lot of them were like, why'd we call that? I forget the exact details, but there was one.
Well, there were a couple that were really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could see the blitz coming. And good for Aaron to be like, I see the blitz coming, and I don't have the right setup to pick up that blitz. So he used them wisely when he did use them. It just sucks that he had to use them because we needed them, and it showed. The fact that we weren't able to do the challenge, and the fact that we couldn't, manage the clock at the end of the first half, second quarter, and then of course the 30 seconds at the end of the game. Yeah, it just, that was some bad juju there. Bad juju.
Yeah, so it was a tie, but technically, mathematically, we are still in first place in the NFC North, controlling our destiny.
We sure are. As long as we can control the destiny, that's all I care about.
There you go.
At the end of the day. I also care about Steven, who is once again checking in from Palos Park, Illinois. Troy, what the heck happened? I told you to bring us home a W, not bring home a tie. I know, but it was really cool in the pro shop and it was on sale.
Oh, jeez.
I can't wait to see what Troy thought and liked and didn't like about the game since he attended it in person. The one thing that I absolutely loved was actually seeing Jerry Kramer's name get added to the ring of fame there at Lambeau. It was all covered up at the start of the game with a black cloth, and I'm like, "Ooh, great! We get to see Jerry Kramer." And then he came out and gave a nice speech at halftime. So really, really fun to see Jerry and finally get his honors there up on the stadium wall, which is great.
It's great that he's finally in the NFL Hall of Fame. That's a long-deserved honor. But why the heck would he not be up in the Packers Ring of Honor like 40 years ago?
Because you got to be in the NFL Hall of Fame in order to be in the ring. That's
seriously.
Yeah.
I thought the Packers could do whatever they wanted in their own stadium.
Nope. That's the point of the ring. The point of the ring is that Packers who have been inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame, except for the north end zone where you have the specific retired numbers.
Okay. Well, thank goodness he made it into the NFL Hall of Fame so he could enjoy it and get to be in that Ring of Honor, because that's long overdue. So
long overdue.
Congratulations, Jerry.
Anyway, next week from Steven, we hit the road for the first time in the regular season as the Packers will travel out of Wisconsin. And now we will also see the first team outside our division to play against us in the Washington Redskins. We're 1-0-1. What does this do to Wayne Henderson's dream undefeated season? They can't finish 19-0 like you predicted, so can he settle for the unneeded tie?
Heck yeah. If we win all the rest of the games, heck yeah.
Yeah, it's still 18-0.
There you go.
I see that we played against the Washington Redskins on the road that year as well, so why aren't the Packers hosting them this season? Wouldn't that be the fair thing to have done since we didn't play them at all last season, or at least the regular season is concerned? When we look back at our 100th season, what are we going to think when we play our final 14 games of this season? It's a really good question.
I know what I'm going to think. I'm going to think, wow, that Super Bowl trophy looks awesome. Glad we got another one.
And then we're going to be like five Super Bowls. 14-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers.
I can't wait to get to say that. It's going to be amazing.
And you know what? And when we say it, we're going to wear our ties.
I can't tie a tie, but I've got one somewhere in the closet, one of those with a zipper, so I'll wear it, whatever it takes. We also got an email from Caleb. Hey, Wayne and Troy, Caleb Fisher and Lorna LaPointe here. We couldn't believe how we lost this game, but technically, Caleb, we didn't lose. We just didn't win. It seemed to me the Vikings really brought it this time. One thing we are upset about is the roughing the passer call against Clay Matthews. I don't recall that. Is that something? It seemed to be
he's just upset. Man,
we're
living. Tame.
It seemed to me, Caleb, to be a clean hit. And another thing that was disappointing was the pass interference call on Graham. Well,
no doubt.
Yeah, that was like, what is going on, refs? Caleb says, we are not worried about this season. It may have been a tie, but at least it wasn't a loss until the game against the Redskins this weekend. Caleb and Lorna LaPointe saying, go Pack, go. Bleed green and gold till dead and cold. Thank you very much, Caleb. Good to hear from you again. And this tie, it's going to make things so mathematically tricky throughout the whole season.
And then something happens, and God forbid, we're like on the bubble for the playoffs, and stupid tie is going to make us like miss the playoffs. I'm be so livid.
People will be throwing ties on the field. Oh, well, let's check in with the Monday Twitter poll. That's also in our Packers Fan Podcast community Facebook group. Packers fans, which do you think is most responsible for Green Bay not outright winning the game against the Vikings? Troy, would you be surprised if I told you that 63% of the voters said poor officiating?
Surprised? No.
Okay.
I'm surprised it's so low.
Yeah, I thought that might be the first poll where we have 100%. 30% are saying the Packers defense is responsible.
They give up 400 yards passing, just saying.
Yeah. 3%, which might have been one vote, I forget, maybe two, said AR-12 playing hurt actually contributed to us not winning. And 4% blaming the Vikings defense for trying to further hurt AR-12.
Nah, that 7% on the end. Didn't see any of that on the field at all. Most of the stuff was very clean, and the Vikings. At the end of the day, the Vikings played a very good game, and I think Rodgers managed the game the best he could. I think that the challenge that we had on the offense, as far as finishing it in the end zone, was again our own stupid mistakes, holding penalty, the illegal formation penalty, the false starts. All of it's just basic fundamental stuff. We kill our own drives. And that's something that's been plaguing us for a long time now. So hopefully we can get that fixed. Joe Philbin can go to work and correct some of that, and we'll be good to go the rest of the way.
I think that's why we had a write-in vote for a bit of everything.
Yeah, even the heat was a factor. So hot.
Everything except for the bacon cheese pretzels.
Nope, that probably sat in my gut and caused me not to be able to run for the touchdown on their behalf.
But you weren't even suited up.
Doesn't matter.
But
I was still running for the touchdown anyway.
You had an awesome hat on. I saw it in the Facebook videos. Some comments that we got in response to the poll on Twitter. Craft Beer J says our time management was terrible. Why were we throwing it there at the end?
This is terrible. This is terrible. Charles Barkley, terrible.
Oh, jeez. Also, it's Juco on Twitter says that TD pass, later overturned, to Tay on third down when we should have been running out the clock. I sense a theme here, Troy.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't disagree with the call to try to go ahead for the score. the pass was there. I mean, I don't know what considered a football move, and it's already broken the plane. So yeah, I don't get it.
We also got some comments to the poll on Facebook. First off, I'll take the first one. Peter says, can't say who is more responsible. I mean, we had plenty of chances to win the game without the need for the refs' mistakes to make matters so much worse. Too many individual mistakes from all over the wrong moments.
Yeah, I totally agree with that statement. We shot ourselves. Time management, the RPO, just sloppy play in some areas and that sloppy play cost us the game.
How about
cost us the win?
How about Jackson's comment that a lot of it has to do with the signal calling by McCarthy?
No, I thought the plays were good. I think that the one challenge, if there was anything in this game, was that we abandoned the run again too early. I didn't see a lot of running going on in the third quarter, and Ty Montgomery and Williams were tearing up the field. So I think we just have to remember that there are more players than the passing position. We need to get the run game going, and I think that hopefully this week with the return of Aaron Jones, we're going to see that happen, because a running game does make a passing game in the end.
Absolutely. And I'm confident that when Aaron Jones is there, we can get back to the plan that we've had in our minds and in our practices, and we're going to finally get to implement it against the Redskins. We had some other great comments in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community group. And
Packers. It's a great comment because Peter agreed with me.
That's what makes it great. You can find the group at packerscommunity.com.
You sure can. And you can see how Peter was absolutely saying what I was saying. And that's that the play calling scheme was bad from the game. And literally, if you take everything else away from the game and we see runs when we should be passing and then 2 passes when we should have been running, we got screwed by the refs. But really, it's just the play calling, just abandoning the run game.
And like he finished up, I like how he says, we did everything we could to throw that game away. Just thankful, so did the Vikings kicker. Oh, snap. Poor kid.
That's awesome.
Brett commented, all I can say is that the officials must have thought Matthews should have done more to pull out of the tackle and not land at all on Cousins. But how can a player do that once in his mind and actions he's already committed to the tackle? I think some terrible officiating has cost us the win today.
Former Packers Fan Podcast host Dallin Christensen said, I am so fed up with football. The excessive protection of the quarterbacks has to stop. Yes, the call may have been right according to the rules, but let me tell you, the rule's bad. Very bad. Super bad.
I thought the numbers were bad.
No, the rule is terrible. Durable.
That's ridiculous. Janelle says, we had the dagger.
I know, I saw it.
And then we got a backstab by the refs on that ridiculous call. I'll take a tie over a loss, but that definitely should have ended with a Green Bay win. So stupid.
Stupid is right. Agree with you, Janelle. Sorry, I was adjusting there because I felt something poking me in my back. Kim McKinney in Texas said, I have watched it over and 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 over. And it was a clean hit. And Clay even went out of his way to make sure that he didn't land on top of Cousins. Then the quarterback tried to kick Clay in the head. Did you see that?
No, I missed that. Thankfully.
Yeah, it was there. I don't know I think it was just moving around. I don't think it was intentional, but
right.
His foot did come close to Clay's head.
That would not have been good. So thank you for all of your great comments. Be sure to check out more conversations happening in the Facebook group at packerscommunity.com. Things including Troy's game day videos from Lambeau Field, more NFC North tidbits and a little bit of smack talk. And of course, more talk about quarterback hits, as well as more green and gold goodness. Again, it's all at packerscommunity.com.
Well, Willie Wood, number 24, was a starting free safety for the Packers in Super Bowl I, and he recorded a key interception that helped the Packers put the game away in the second half. That's MVP caliber right there, people. And it reminds us of listener Bryant, who's supporting the Packers Fan Podcast at patreon.com/Packers Fan Podcast. at the Willywood $24 a month level. That's right. Your support is amazing, Bryant, and we super duper thank you. At the Willywood support level, you too can get your own Packers Fan Podcast logo t-shirt, just like Bryant did earlier this week.
Yeah, I'm anxious to hear from you, Bryant, how you like the shirt. If you get a picture or a selfie of yourself wearing that out and about, we have to see it.
Well, at AR12, he's out there just doing everything he can, even with a bum knee. And so the Texas-only Green Bay Packers fanatics are doing that as well with their $12 a month support at the Aaron Rodgers level. You'll hopefully hear their closing Go Pack Go in an upcoming episode of the podcast. If you want to do that as well, just make sure you sponsor us at the $12 level at PackersFanPodcast.com/support.
And we've got some great podcast support at the Brett Favre Put Her in the Old Vice $4 a month level. We've got a $4 pledge dedicated to lifelong Packer backer Randy Westgame of Wausau, as well as more support from Jeff Summerfield. Thank you very much at the Brett Favre $4 a month level.
And Brett Favre was showing his support too for Clay Matthews. Had a few choice words about the call as well.
That's very, very true, because we all have to chime in and let our voices be heard, as do the folks saying Go Pack Go at the Curly Lambeau $1 a month support level. Velvet Eau Claire, thank you. Aaron Peterson from the Hollywood Outsider, thank you. And Hank Davis from the TPE Network of Podcasts, thank you.
You guys are super, super awesome, and you can help make the Packers Fan Podcast even better by becoming a Patreon supporter at PackersFanPodcast.com/support. It helps us grow the show, bring you more great content each and every week, but you get rewards too. So make sure that if you feel like you're getting value from this podcast, show us a little value. Could be as little as $1 like Velvet or as much as $24 like Bryant. Your choice. Just go to PackersFanPodcast.com/support because we'd love to do some live post-game coverage. That would be fun, but we can't do it without your help.
Thanks again, Velvet, Jeff, Randy, Bryant, the Texas-only Green Bay Packers fanatics, Aaron and Hank. You rock.
Well, that will go around the NFC North, starting with the Detroit Lions, and the Niners gave the Pack, I'd call it a blueprint on how to rush the Lions into the ground. That's right, okay. 190 yards on the ground, plus some quarterback turnovers for the Lions, make the 0-2 team truly the bottom of the NFC North. It may have looked competitive at 30-27, even with a possible comeback or tie looming, but the Lions were outmatched in every facet of the football game against the Niners. Now, over with the Bears, the Seahawks quarterback, Mr. Russell Wilson, he actually only was able to use more than 2.5 seconds from the snap to deliver the ball on only 13 pass attempts because the Bears rush is ridiculous. We saw it last week. Seattle felt it this week. 5 or more rushers 5 times in their blitz packages, and the results, 3 of those 5 were sacks. So, yikes. Yikes.
And the Seahawks aren't very good.
And the Bears played a solid 4-quarter effort. Trubisky still has a little bit of an issue with passes greater than 10 yards, but he figures that out, and they get Howard more involved. I would be very, very worried about the Chicago Bears. And in regards to the Vikings, last thing I heard was that they needed a kicker.
That's the word on the street, as the kids say.
Definitely the word on the street. Check out more details and information over in our show notes at PackersFanPodcast.com/161 as we move into looking ahead to the Redskins. And we're going to just throw out a few numbers here. Washington heads into the game with the league's number 1 overall defense, giving up just 494 yards of total offense through the first 2 weeks.
Really?
Yeah. Pretty impressive. Now, I think they played the Cardinals and somebody else, which isn't saying much. Washington players who are already out for the game, 11, 10 of whom are on the injured reserve. And running back Robert Kelly has a toe injury that also sidelined him. And then total points Washington has allowed in 2 weeks, though Indianapolis scored 3 touchdowns in week 2. The 13.5 points per game allowed ranks number 2 in the NFL.
Okay.
Be sure to keep an eye on Paul Richardson at the wide receiver level, Matthew Ioannidis as the defensive tackle, and also, of course, Adrian Peterson. No, it's not 2015, but Peterson has found a team willing to give him the ball, and he ran for 96 yards on 26 carries in the season opener against a really bad Arizona team, but rushed for just 20 yards on 11 carries last week. But that's because most of the running went to Chris Thompson, not known as a receiving threat, but literally he was able to take away the passes as well. So lots of happenings in the backfield there. And the big news from this is probably the fact that one Alex Smith is now the Washington quarterback. And we know of Alex Smith because he will forever be tied to Aaron Rodgers and the 2005 NFL draft.
Right. I still can't believe the Chiefs traded him away, but then again, they seem to be fine without him. So it'll be good to see Alex again.
One more stat here is that the Colts did run for 104 yards and a score, but the Washington defense did sack Luck 3 times. So again, offensive line for the Packers, big stuff that they need from them to keep Aaron Rodgers upright. And again, running game, it's possible here against the Redskins. So let's see if we can make sure that mix is more 50-50 and not 70-30.
Those are very good percentages, Troy. Let's head for those. 50-50 sounds awesome. Let's see what happens. Let's check in now with the official Packers dope sheet for week 3 already. Packers at Redskins, and we'll have it linked at PackersFanPodcast.com/161. The 1-0-1 NFC North leading Green Bay Packers head to Washington, technically Landover, Maryland, to take on the 1-1 Washington Redskins. The Green Bay Packers go on the road to face the Redskins, marking Green Bay's first September visit to Washington/Landover, Maryland. Including playoffs, though, this is the third game between the two in the last 4 seasons, all 3 taking place in Washington. Kind of like what Steven mentioned in his email. It's like one of these days I got to play at Lambeau. Green Bay is 18-14-1 against Washington during the regular season, and the Packers are opening the season with 3 NFC opponents for the first time since 2012. So keeping it in the conference. And this is just kind of an interesting balance when you look at the history of the two teams. Mike McCarthy is in his 13th year as the Packers' 14th head coach. So we're in our 100th season and only our 14th head coach, whereas Jay Gruden is in his 5th year and is the Redskins' 29th head coach.
Oh,
that's a lot of coaches. Packers president and CEO Mark Murphy played 8 seasons with the Redskins from 77 through 84 and played on their Super Bowl championship team back in the day. So check out the full official Green Bay Packers dope sheet for this game at PackersFanPodcast.com/161. Let's check in and see how we did with our predictions, or can it even be figured out since it ended in a tie? Because you were calling for a 6-point Packers victory. I was calling for a 3-point victory, and we tied, so no victory, no loss. What do you think the Packers are going to do against the Redskins this week, Troy?
That's a good question. On the road, I'm going to say Green Bay 28, Redskins 17.
Whoa. 28, just 4 solid touchdowns and 4 solid extra points from Mason Crosby.
Yep, 2 for Aaron and 2 for Aaron Jones.
That's what you call balance. Again, going back to the 50-50.
Yeah.
I'm also calling for a Packers victory, Troy. Packers 24, Redskins 21.
Man, I am out of heart attack medication. Dude, can you just make it at least 2 scores?
Check back with me, spoiler alert, when we play the Bills. But you never know. We saw what happened when we played the Titans a few years ago. Game time weather in Landover, Maryland. It's going to be Sunday afternoon, regular time. 40% chance of rain, though, and a high around 70 degrees. So not cold, not hot, but it could get mushy.
All the more reason to run the football.
Amen to that, Troy. Amen to that.
And if that happens, you can call us an official Packers fan podcast. But until then, we are still unofficial at this point, and we're not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. However, if you know someone that would like to make that happen for us, just tell them to email us at media@PackersFanPodcast.com.
And be ready for the Monday morning Twitter poll. Follow us on Twitter at PackersFanPod. What the heck? Also follow me on Twitter. I'm at Wayne Henderson.
And me, I'm at Troy Heinritz. Be sure to join the Packers Fan Podcast community as well by going to packerscommunity.com. Join in on the fun conversation. Watch videos from Lambeau Field. Pretend you're eating a bacon-covered pretzel cheese bread. And you can have great discussions about whatever you want to hate on this week for the wonderful tie at Lambeau.
You would have thought we lost the game, but we didn't. Remember, PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback is where you go to get in your feedback. Keep those conversations going online all the time because we've got another fun episode of the Packers Fan Podcast coming at you next week after a victory against the Washington Redskins.
Be sure to stay subscribed to Apple Podcasts so you don't miss an episode. Also, Google Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget to download our app for on-the-go listening as you go on the road to Landover this week in both the iTunes and the Google Play Store. So let's get excited. Let's cheer along. Let's beat those Redskins as we go on the road with a Go Pack Go!